As drivens, we are designed to work in a chaotic, trauma-filled world. And so we are constantly in this impulsivity of the elephant. So that impulsivity, this body awareness, becomes really important. But what do our lives look like is chaos. And so all of these areas, what we're creating around us is this constant state of chaos. So this is called the genius model, and it's pretty self-explanatory, but it's really the overview of all of this. And what I do is right here. It is a change of identity. And so left prefrontal lobe, this thing called the executive function in the farmer's brain, makes their identity very logical and linear, meaning that they find their identity in the things that they do most frequently. And so it's hard to imagine, but they truly feel like they are a butcher or a baker or a candlestick maker. They have a single monkey in their head, and this single monkey has an identity built into it. And so this monkey takes on their identity. They are literally thinkers. We, on the other hand, have 9 to 13 monkeys in our head throwing each other all the time. So it is this confusion of identity that creates this shame. And coming out of the butthole, right between the butt cheeks, this identity of shame is because we largely identify with this feeling of not enough. We identify with the dopamine receptor D4 and D2, which is I'm not enough, or I'm feeling like there's always something missing or wrong. We tend to make an identity out of that, and that becomes me. And so when I meet all of you guys, and that's why Driven, the book, had such a profound impact on so many people, because holy, I'm not broken. And that not broken feeling is where I start with everybody. So what else do we have? This practice is really what drives our behavior. And prior to meeting me or prior to getting into this, you have this impulsive, chaotic nature. As drivens, we are designed to work in a chaotic, trauma-filled world. And so we are constantly in this impulsivity of the elephant, of really feeling that elephant is what keeps us surviving. And so we're not relying upon our monkey mind or this thinker, we're relying upon the elephant. You hear that all the time. I describe the monkey and elephant to groups of meditators for years. I taught a free meditation class for like 15 years. And I'd ask people, are you the monkey or the elephant? All the farmers would always go, no, I'm the monkey. Where all the drivens would go, oh, I'm the elephant. So that impulsivity, this body awareness becomes really important. But what do our lives look like is chaos. And so all of these areas, what we're creating around us is this constant state of chaos. And when you meet me, it is this opportunity to first and foremost, that word okay. And so the first thing we do is really change our identity. And what am I doing that? It is very simply this: rather than who I am, we first and foremost, this is step number 1 when you're working with me, is anchoring your truth into a what I am. Rather than this who and your narrative or all this crap going on in your head, it is really this simple understanding that what you are is a Homo sapien, what you are is an animal. And that hopefully starts to free you from this shame. And we start to get this contrasting identity. Then understanding how I function. And this is the monkey and the elephant thing. And understanding that, we, monkey, elephant, observer, this third element is the most important piece of everything we're going to do in this group and everything I do with all of my clients. And discernment between the monkey, the elephant is key to it, to where you can hear the monkey mind and all the arguing happening up here. But more importantly, you can feel this impulsive elephant. And so once you have that and start to get some understanding, and then you can look at my, content on YouTube and all these pictures I draw about how, trauma is stored in the body. And once you get this basic understanding of pings to my radar and all the other, language that I use, you get this understanding about how I change. I'll often joke that human beings are in a constant state of change, working our off at being the same. And what do I mean by that? Working our off at being the same is that we're wanting to be in a familiar world where we know the landmines are. So actually learning how to actually build, call it soul strength, or this capacity to actually just really observe the sensations in the body without acting on them. So that is the real fundamental basics of this identity piece. Then we get into practice. In practice, something called locus of control. It's Rotter's assessment of locus of control. And this is the number one piece that I get people to really, and I don't usually have a problem with most of my drivens with this, is we have a very strong internal locus of control. We think everything is our fault. So we are owning way more than we actually are of our own life. Like, it's all my fault. And that's the, I could have called it the shame-based personality. But this ownership, other component of that, is that this is really your life. No one else. You're not going to be a victim is the other part of it. Later on, the next couple of weeks, in 3 weeks or so, I will go into, and I'm dying to do this because I don't get to do it except in group settings like this, go into the Jungian archetypal patterns that most of us fall into as we're developing, from victim. When we're babies, we are victims. And then we go through, the wanderer, and then we get into the warrior, and we get into these different archetypal patterns as we're learning to own our life. And so you're really, trying to, over control things. Then most of you guys have a daily meditation practice. And so what is, key and fundamental of everything that we do in this practice is really looking at the discernment between monkey and elephant. And so, I don't give a if it's 30 seconds, 10 seconds. I really don't care if it's 10 seconds of starting a timer first thing in the morning. At some point, you're going to make coffee or whatever. You press go on the timer and you drink a cup of coffee. The timer goes off 30 seconds later. That counts as a meditation practice. And what does the practice mean? What you're doing is practicing learning to live in the observer, learning to live in this soul level awareness. So you can feel the impulsive elephant. You can hear the monkey mind judging you. Oh, it's just stupid 30 seconds. It's not going to matter. And you do it anyway. And so that is absolutely critical. Once you get that moment, and I often joke about this, but there's a moment when you feel the resistance to meditating and you don't make the narrative and you catch it and you laugh. The moment you can laugh at yourself and laugh at this thing that is sabotaging you, then take the next step. If you've done my shooting retreat, you know this, I say it 10,000 times on my shooting retreat, there is no recoil in the present. There is no resistance in the present. So you feel the resistance to doing it, that's when the meditation begins. So then you can melt and just go and pour a cup of coffee. You just press start on it. Well, I can't get myself to do it. And that's something in the future. And so you just do it. Last part of this practice of really, the reason I wrote Driven, why did I write Driven? There's a difference in most people in their relationship to other human beings. Drivens, in particular, know this concept of aloneness, where everyone knows what lonely means. Lonely is this people start feeling in my body, and alone is in the observer. This alone means that I could be in a crowd of people and still feel that aloneness. That is what this group is designed to really connect on, is that, a wolf pack. And all of us are truly craving that someone on this planet really has our back. And unlike the sheep, which are using much more of their dorsal vagal system, they're a herding animal. As I say in Driven, and I say all the time, what happens when a cheetah runs into a herd of gazelles? They scatter. And so wolf pack, meaning that when a bear attacks one of the wolves, all of the wolves jump on the bear and defend. Why is that? And it's a very simple thing. How many sheep or how many gazelles does it take to catch a blade of grass? One. How many wolves does it take to kill an elk? All of us. And so this need for each other, and thank God for the internet. Thank God that we can do this now, that we, I think we're, spread across the entire United States and Canada. And yet we have this common affliction. Then the last thing, what we're manifesting, and I don't even like the word manifest or create, a whole life perspective is something else I force everyone to really do. I go through, in the book, I go through friends, family, fitness, finance, fun, faith. In here, health, finance, romance, and health, 3 basic categories. But it's really looking at your whole life and seeing how all of these things are interconnected. I eat healthy and I exercise and I sleep well. I feel better. That makes me a better dad, a better therapist. And so you can't, and Drivens are famous for it. We optimize one, we keep one status quo, and we ignore the third. And so it is classic that, my business is kicking ass, but I'm 300 pounds and my marriage is just barely hanging on. And so it is critical that we take this whole life perspective. Then here's where the magic starts to happen. Key part of this, what happens to the individual within yourself when you begin to practice and you begin to start to stabilize your central nervous system and you start to own your life and you building these routines. A byproduct of that is you start to experience something called clarity. And what is clarity? You're starting to look at the world through this lens. You're not looking through your ego lens. You're not looking through your emotional lens. You're looking through this curious observer's lens. That begins this process of actually seeing oneself. And as Hurwitz can attest to, once you start to really understand how you can use this intuition in very remarkable ways, things get pretty weird. You start to see things so freaking clear that it flips you out. This is brilliant too, is confidence. So what is confidence? Fidance means faith. And why we need self-confidence, I'm not even sure what that means. And so confidence, you'll see, is outside of the identity. It is not about what I can do. It's not about what I am achieving. It's about my practice. I'm having confidence in the practices that I'm taking. And if I just keep doing what I'm doing, I will get the result. And the result then, actually, you start to look at your life and you look at the whole of your life and you start to see this internal sense of influence or efficacy is what we call it in psychobabble land. I can affect my world. I have power to change. And that internal sense of power, in my experience, personally and professionally, watching you guys, when you start to feel this power, it drives this desire for more practice, because it's like, holy, this stuff works. And the next thing you know, you're jumping into the ocean when it's 37 degrees. Or buying cold plunges. You're like, what are these practices that we can do to help stabilize the central nervous system? And so as you look at how this all tips into this center part, and that's really what I want to talk about the rest of this time, and get some questions and get some discussion going of really what is this ultimate kind of manifestation of what we can become as Drivens and how important we are in this world. Because it is, very simply say it this way, the sheep are pretty irrelevant for the most part. They're NPCs, they're non-player characters. And if you have this conception that the observer, I don't know if you guys heard that Thomas Campbell podcast on Joe Rogan, freaking blew my mind, because he was saying the same thing I'm saying, that this is a simulation, and the game here is to get our soul in the driver's seat. And when the soul gets in the driver's seat, that's when you start to see these remarkable changes in your life, but the ability to actually see and influence the world in a very different way. And so, despite him being pardoned today, I think, Fauci and all of these they are Drivens that are power addicted. And they're addicted to money, they're addicted to greed, they're addicted to money, basically. I mean, it's just real people, because they're not taking care of the sheep. Something Steve Stante eloquently stated in his book is we are born wolves. All of us are born wolves. And, this capacity to actually work on your wolf, trauma heal, own your selfishness, own your fear, own how you want to dominate, own your anger, own your aggression, and do what with it? Actually heal it. And in the healing process, you start to become this very different thing. And I don't know how to even conceptualize it, but it is this I mean, how I would describe myself now is, full of clarity, confidence, and power. I mean, the amount of grounded peace that I experienced despite the last 2.5 years of hell I've been through, the remarkable ability for me to be resilient, to really take on what it is to be driven and own it, but really then, generalize it to the world. And I'm trying to bring this stuff to the world so we can get a collective of people that are actually trying to do, to battle the Faucis and to battle the big pharma and the big that are also driven and just preying on the sheep. So that's basically how I work and what I do. And you can hear all of my stuff in here and all of these things as you look around. I mean, this is just mountains and mountains and mountains. It's a lifetime of content. You can never get bored of this. And, the deeper about how I function and, how I change, more importantly, what I am, as I become more and more soul identified, this concept of being stuck in this meat suit and how grateful I am just to be here has just gone through the roof. And I'm excited. Making a commitment to actually own your life and get into these routines and do this stuff, but then create this collective ability for us to have a wolf pack that we really do give a about having each other's backs.